PR Done and Dunner. I am your host, Bob Geller, and I'd like to welcome Nick Toso, founder and CEO of Rolli. It's an AI-powered newsroom as a service platform that provides journalists with free state-of-the-art tools and resources for news gathering. Do I have that right, Nick?
You got it right, Bob. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure, and we are so happy to have you here on the podcast. What I'd like to do is share a little bit of context first about how we met, and then we can get into the Q&A.
hmm
But on the podcast, we like to talk tech, whether it's about PR for the tech industry or tech that supports PR and marketing. Now, you and I are both BU alum. I was reading Bostonian magazine. It's a Boston University publication, and saw a nice story about Rolli. Power of PR, right?
That's right.
Um, I got in touch with you, and we had an earlier chat. And it sounded so interesting that I wanted to have you on the podcast. I thought the audience could benefit from hearing more about what you're up to with this company. Before we get into the technical Q&A and the
hmm
technology, just a few questions, going back to the my Boston years, and always like to visit Boston
Yeah.
and keep in touch with the university. Did you enjoy your BU experience?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, what a college town. Great place to learn, great place to meet other students, and yeah, great sports town too.
There
What's
you
not to
go.
love?
What dorm were you in, or dorms?
I was in West Hall, in Rich Hall. That was right in front of the legendary Nickerson Field. Yeah, next to the hockey rink there, where won lots of bean cups, bean
Absolutely.
pots. So great campus, great part of campus there.
Those were
How about
fun.
yourself, Bob?
I lived in Miles, and then
Okay.
I went off campus. Lived up on Commonwealth Avenue, and just had some fun years there. Actually, my daughter Carly graduated from Boston University in business. Shout
Oh,
out to
good for
Carly
her.
Geller, and my son-in-law Luca Del Dio also graduated. So we are a real BU family.
That's
But
wonderful to see. Very cool.
by the way, I mean, this is partially about technology. It's also partially about the startup experience and
hmm
entrepreneurship. And so we'd also like to hear that story. But did you work, by the way, and I was in touch with these folks, the BU Venture Accelerator? Did you work with them at all?
No, no, have not worked with them yet, but would love to. I've been more involved with the USC community here. I did my grad school, my MBA at SC here in LA.
Excellent.
Very involved with that startup community, but would love to work more with my Terrier family.
There you go. So you're in LA now, right?
Yep, that's right.
Anyway, I guess a question I had going into our first chat, and some may still wonder today, do we
hmm
need another media source matching service? And another question I had was, is this just for journalists? Can brands and agencies benefit from Rolly too?
Yeah.
So at that time, you showed me the technology. I was really impressed. And that's why I invited you on the podcast. I'd love it if you could take the audience through the same story you told me about, I guess, your origin story. What led you and
Sure.
your team to launch Rolly?
Yeah, the great place to start. So went from BU, did a few internships in media, did my internships at the Voice of America in Washington, D.C.
Cool.
Fell in love with the industry, and a few years out of college, I was working at VOA, and CNN recruited me to come launch their international bureau, their Spanish language bureau in Washington, D.C. That was in the around 2005, 2006. Now I'm dating myself, about 20 years ago. Grew through the ranks there, kind of started
Were
doing
you I'm
everything.
sorry to talk. Were you a in the School of Communications at BU or?
No, I was at in the I started at CGS and then went to the I don't know what it's called now, but it's basically the College of Arts and Sciences.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an interesting story, Bob. So I started college in September of 2001, literally a week
Oh
before 9/11.
man.
So I went into
Wow.
college undeclared. And when that happened, I declared for international relations and was obviously very intrigued with the world and how the US was being perceived in the world and how, everything was going to change after 9/11, which surely it did.
Of course.
Um, I went to work for the Voice of America because I thought it was a really interesting blend between international relations and media. And that's really how I got my start. But I have to say that, for many of us, and especially those that were starting their college education around that historic time, 9/11 would really marked, I think, the rest of our careers. I have friends that went into foreign service after that, friends that went into different industries. That the world really changed when I started college.
Interesting. Did that affect your career aspirations, or did it change your
Yeah,
outlook?
I
Or
think I think it really fortified my mindset. I always thought I wanted to go into diplomacy. My family were diplomats, actually, interestingly,
wow,
and I always thought I was interested in international relations and diplomacy, but that kind of sealed the deal for me. Said, there's a lot of work to be done in this space. There's a lot of impact that you can have when you do this. So that's one of the things that drew me to the Voice of America. The Voice of America, for those that don't know, and it's been in the news recently, but is the international broadcasting agency of the United
sure.
States. And I thought it was a really interesting blend of diplomacy and media. My first job ever was a paper boy, so I always had journalism deep in my heart. So it blended kind of two passions and two professional interests that I had in a really succinct way, and went into VOA, and that kind of launched me into CNN. But that's
Wow,
kind of the origin story there. And while I was at CNN, grew through the ranks there from entry level producer to eventually being the bureau chief for the Washington D.C. bureau, CNN Espanol
wow,
International in
wow.
D.C.
How long
hmm
were you there for at CNN?
Felt like forever, but if you look at the calendar, it was just shy of 10 years. But it flew by. We had some really historic events that we covered, presidential interviews that we did.
Wow.
It's a great town to do news. All the world leaders pass through DC, and it's the epicenter of a lot of policy that ends up shaping our lives. So it's a great place to cover news.
100%. I mean, I'm a news junkie. I love to watch CNN and other news channels, stations, but I think that brings us closer to the origin story because I remember as you related to me that there was some, I guess you observed some trends in the field
Yeah.
and you saw a need. I guess that led you to start Rolli and develop the solution. Is that right?
Yeah, so I think growing up through the ranks there and doing different roles, you see all the inefficiencies magnified. Um, and at CNN at the time, and even still, you have some of the best resources in the industry, and you can't help but wonder, wow, if we're having these issues, imagine what other folks are having, right? So I started speaking with some friends of mine that worked at local stations, independent journalists, different networks. And it was a common theme that it was really hard to find qualified subject matter experts within deadline. When you couldn't find, that's very niche expert in the next hour or two to go on with a breaking news or to cover a story that you want to cover, you either risk misinforming your audiences, you risk not being able to cover a story in depth or in the depth that you'd like to cover it. Um, and too often, we're calling the same folks over and over again. And sometimes the news can feel like Groundhog's Day when you see the same person with the same analysis. Because at that time, it was very difficult to expand your Rolodex. So we launched Rolli, aptly named after the Rolodex, to kind of help solve this problem for journalists.
That makes a lot of sense. It begs a couple of questions. First of all, I mean, I assume like on CNN, I see the usual suspects. They
hmm
try out people I guess they're probably paying as commentators.
Yeah.
I guess maybe you're talking more about niche or maybe
Yeah.
ones for special stories. And I guess a lot of people might wonder, aren't there armies of PR teams chasing these, outlets, chasing media with their experts? I guess what you're saying probably is that Rowley makes it kind of organized,
hmm
proactive, rather than reactive, and
hmm
whoever's in my inbox, I'll talk to. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of how it works. So, a journalist will go into their editorial meeting in the morning. They'll be assigned a story, or they'll know kind of what's going to go in the rundown. So they'll start building or stacking the show, as we call it. And you get out of that meeting, and then that minute you start looking for your experts, or how you're going to assign your reporters that day. So as a PR pro, your timing has to be impeccable. But it's impossible for you to know what was discussed in that editorial meeting. So in many ways, if you're sending those pitch emails, you either have to hope that the journalist saved your email or will recall it or have it top of mind when that moment comes. or that you got really lucky and you sent that email, the perfect email at the right time when the journalist was looking for someone, and that does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but for a journalist that needs things a little bit more on demand, it's a lot easier just to kind of go into your Rolodex or your stable of experts on your phone or on your computer. And call someone that you know is qualified and hopefully picks up the call and is available that day and that time. So a lot of it is with timing. In broadcast, we don't have the luxury of time. We don't have week-long deadlines. So you need someone immediately, and you need an answer immediately. So I think timing, I think in this equation is probably the most important thing.
Now, I think, I don't know, you discovered this, I guess, market opportunity.
Mhm.
I guess, how long ago was it now that you started, Rolli?
Yeah, so we launched Rolli in February of 2020. Think COVID. We were building it, through 2019 and
Okay.
launched it. COVID was the first use case. So yeah, as journalists were getting sent home and working in isolation, we were inviting them onto the platform to share their virologists, molecular biologists, COVID experts,
Wow.
which was a really really interesting dynamic.
I can imagine.
You're in the newsroom, Bob, and you say, I need a COVID expert. You're going to have your colleagues from the corner of the newsroom start shouting out some names and giving you phone numbers. But during COVID, you do that from your living room. You say, I need a COVID expert. Your neighbor's calling an ambulance, right? You're not getting the same dynamic.
What about
So we were,
Fauci?
yeah, exactly. Well, Fauci was fully booked. You get a totally different dynamic. So we try to replicate that newsroom dynamic on the platform,
Um,
and all the tools we build come from direct input from journalists in the actual newsroom, not outside of the newsroom. Our team is all journalists and technologists, so that's why we kind of model this as newsroom as a service because it's quite literally the tools and technologies you would find in a newsroom, but on a platform available for everybody.
I
Mm-hmm.
love it. I mean, great idea. I guess I would ask, you spotted this opportunity a while back. Do the trends continue? I mean, I assume there's still a good marketplace need for the very
Yeah,
same
there's
reasons.
definitely still a need, I would say. What's really changed with AI, I think, are two fundamental things to look at. First, the barrier of entry for sending an email to a journalist has been lowered quite a bit. You now have systems that could auto-generate emails, auto-generate press releases, make it easier to find contacts to email. So as a result, journalists get a lot more emails than they used to. My co-founder is still a working journalist here in LA, can say without any hesitation that she gets at least 2 or 3 times more emails now than she did a few years ago. So I think that's one of the trends that's made it maybe harder for PR pros to stand out in the inbox is that there's just a lot more email now. And I don't know if you noticed that or anyone else is noticing that, just getting pitch
100%.
services.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, journalists were the OG of getting pitch emails, right?
That's true.
So now it's kind of now we're starting to see it on different industries. And then the other trend that I would say is one that's come with AI is the amount of fake information and fake profiles and fake personas that are out there that I think it's our responsibility and anyone who's managing some sort of expert network to really take a look at and implement some deeper vetting standards because we are getting a flood of fake information and people trying to imitate celebrities, people trying to imitate business leaders, and trying to trick journalists in the process. So it's the stakes are much higher and the risks are much greater than they used to be.
I guess if you're not careful, you could book a fully virtual AI as a. You've heard about this AI actress that was recently
Yes.
in the news, or Borat, or I'm sorry, Ali G. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I'm here steps away from Hollywood, Bob, and it's a deep concern. The governor is signing legislation to protect, actors against this kind of AI IP infringement, essentially, or not IP infringement, but still AI actors. Then, you have a situation, Bob, and I talk about this often, where in the near future, a journalist is going to get on a Zoom call, much like you and I are talking, and be interviewing an AI avatar and not know the difference. And
Wow,
that is really worrying and really concerning.
that's
And it's something
crazy.
that as a society and as business leaders, we should all be really taking a close look at.
No, that is absolutely crazy. But in the opening, I mentioned it's an AI powered newsroom as a service. So how do you
Mhm.
use AI?
Yeah, in three main ways. So first, we use AI to go deep into the backgrounds of these experts and really provide the best match for what that journalist is looking for. In the beginning of our conversation, I mentioned a little bit about finding niche expertise. Well, for someone who's had a 40 or 50-year career, you end up doing a lot of different things. You don't know what about your background is going to stand out to that journalist, right? But when the
Right.
journalist comes into the platform and says, I need an expert who has expertise in food security in Western Africa, and maybe you are a food expert and you did a project in Western Africa decades ago, but you have a lot of expertise, well, the AI will go deep into your background and pull out that bit of expertise and bring it to the top. So we use AI to really do a much deeper matching, going way past a simple keyword search into what in technology we call a semantic search, which is based on different relationships and much deeper intelligence. We use AI in other ways as well. We have a really great AI chatbot tool on the platform that a journalist could really just speak with as if you were speaking with a friend or a colleague in that newsroom, and you
Um,
could have a conversation with the platform much like you do with ChatGPT or any other AI tool, and you could get into the weeds. You say, look, I need an expert who has this kind of background, who speaks this language, located in this town, preferably has done this in the past few years. I mean, try putting that in a keyword search, right? It's damn near impossible. But with AI, you could really have a much more natural flowing conversation with the system, and find exactly who you're looking for. And the third way we use AI, Bob, and I think we'll get into this a little bit later in the conversation, is that we've developed algorithms that leverage AI to help detect suspicious or
Fake.
inauthentic behaviors
Yeah.
on social media platforms, which is another really interesting aspect of our work.
Well, maybe we can bridge to that area by way of a question. And I'm thinking to the intro when I just mentioned questions the audience likely would have. Um, I guess, do you scrape the information? Do PR teams and brands, I guess, add to the database, or how do you find these names? How do you connect the
Yeah,
dots?
Yeah, all the experts are opted in, so we're not scraping databases or anything like that. So when you join Rolli, you create an account. You work with our team to create the profile on the account. We do all the vetting to make sure folks are who they say they are, working with reputable organizations and experts, of course. But no, it's not going out on the internet and scraping. I think while that might have been a feasible approach a few years ago, it's just not anymore. The quality of the information on the open web has really been in decline for the last few years. I think we probably peaked in 2023. And we're starting to see kind of cracks now in reliability on the information that you're getting from social media, from the internet, even from these AI tools. So it's very important to protect the information and protect the data set that you're working with so that the AI is really representing things accurately.
So it almost seems like a two-sided market or a chicken or egg thing. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
really useful to journalists unless there's a decent sized database. People
Yeah.
don't want to add to the database unless you have a good pool of journalists. Where are you
Yeah.
folks at now? Do you have some critical mass
Yeah.
as far as adoption on both sides?
Absolutely. Yeah. So like I mentioned, we launched this with COVID in 2020. Soon after that, we went into the war in Ukraine, and that was our second use case. And the way we've grown the platform for the last almost 6 years now has been based on journalist demand. So as we've gone through these news cycles, whatever the next news cycle is, whatever the next global crisis is, it has guided our outreach strategy so that we go out and we find experts and we invite them to join the platform. We know that we're inviting them to a platform that there's demand for their expertise, and that demand has really guided our growth and scale over the last few years. So now we're in a spot where we cover most topics, I would say, except for possibly sports and some lifestyle. But the majority of our users are what you would call traditional news journalists, tier one, tier two media. And they're looking for news of the day and global issues and local issues. A lot of local journalists we support. So it's been great to kind of see that evolution. but also see a journalist come in and do a search for something that we just loaded up experts for, and now they're talking, they're interviewing each other, and it's a great dynamic that you kind of see play out on the platform.
What about the tech sector? Is that well represented on the platform? Tech journalists,
Absolutely.
tech
Yeah,
topics,
definitely.
tech
Oh, with
experts.
AI, it's constantly
Mm,
one of our top searches, definitely. And there's
that's
so many
awesome.
different applications. It goes into healthcare, it goes into real estate, it goes into foreign policy, it goes into immigration. So tech touches almost every topic. Yeah, you'll absolutely see folks looking for immigration and tech, right? Surveillance tech. What does this mean for our personal liberties and things of that nature? So technology touches everything these days.
Now, what you can deliver sounds very exciting. I'd say, speak personally to PR teams, of course, to the journalists as well. I guess leads to a couple of questions. First of all, we know that market, when I say market, media market, tier one broadcast is very valued by
Hmm.
brands, by PR folks. So I'm guessing that's how you differentiate from other media matching or media sourcing quoted SOSs and other ones that are out there. Is that your very specific focus on broadcast? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean that's really where we started, and that's kind of where our background is. And I like to say, Bob, the sun shines for everybody. I think there's a
Mhm.
platform for every need. If you look at our social platforms, for example, LinkedIn or TikTok or Reddit or Blue Sky or Instagram or X, I mean, how many do we have now? And they all have different audiences.
Good
You're
point.
not going to pick or choose one over the other. You're going to say, I'm going to be on all of them because I know I'm reaching different audiences on different platforms. So I think all those other platforms are wonderful, and everyone should explore them and understand that you're getting a different mix of audiences on each, and it's best to just be exposed to all those audiences and see really where you're getting your traction.
I see. But do you think PR teams can improve their success by through Rolli of getting through to tier one media?
Oh yeah,
What?
we've absolutely seen it. Yeah, absolutely. We've absolutely seen it. What I would tell folks when they join Rolly is you have to understand that this is more hard news, and news follows a news cycle. So depending on your expertise, you might have a day that you get 10 phone calls, and you might have a day that you get none. But it just depends on kind of what's happening and how relevant your expertise is. And I think that's something that the PR pros listening to your podcast understand and probably try to convey to their clients that a lot of this is based on how relevant your expertise is to the journalist that day, right? A journalist isn't just going to cover you just to kind of give you some free
Sure.
publicity. They're going to cover you because you have something really interesting to say that their audience, that their viewers care about in that given moment. And it's the same thing on the Rolly platform. So when you create a profile in there, you kind of leave it there, set it and forget it, and let the platform work in the background. And when the journalist comes out of that editorial meeting in the morning and has their story and goes into Rolly, they will find you and they'll call you when the time is right. You don't need to guess or try to figure out what was said in that
Right.
morning meeting.
It's free for journalists. Brands and PR need to pay, right?
Yep, that's a very, very reasonable subscription, annual subscription for PR pros and
Makes
uh,
sense.
and experts. Yeah.
You know, is it a buyer's market? It's always been a buyer's market when it comes to tier one media rather than a seller's market. So I'm assuming there's a lot more people chasing, that kind of audience than vice versa, looking for sources. Is it?
Yeah, this is a really good point. So yes, of course, that everyone wants to be on CNN, everyone wants to be on AP, everyone wants to be featured in the tier one media, and it's very easy for folks managing an expert network to become overwhelmed with so many experts in proportion to the journalists that are on the platform. That's not a good thing because what ends up happening is that you get kind of low engagement. I mean, imagine if we've all been to the Cheesecake Factory, right? You open
Yes.
that menu. How hard is it to find what kind of you go in there saying, I want chicken. And then you're like, what part of the world should my chicken be coming from today? Do I want a Chinese dish? Do I want an Italian dish? Do I want a fried chicken sandwich? Well, it's the same thing on these platforms that sometimes a journalist will go in and you say, I need a tech expert, and you give that journalist 1,000 tech experts, well, they're not going to know. They almost rely on you to provide a short list. So that's really what we do on Rolly is we're very selective about the experts on the platform, and we try to maintain a very healthy ratio of experts to journalists so that when you do join the platform, you are getting some level of engagement. You're not lost in the crowd like maybe sometimes we feel on LinkedIn. When you create a LinkedIn profile, it doesn't mean you're going to get a ton
True.
of job opportunities, right? Because there's just so many people on there. So right now we try to maintain a 2-to-1 ratio, which means that for every journalist on the platform, we have two experts on the platform,
That's
and
not
that's
too
we
bad.
found a really healthy way to scale it, where you can still create really meaningful relationships on the platform without getting lost in the shuffle.
Does that mean you it's kind of like a curated list of experts? You don't accept all of them, or how do you?
Well, look, if you apply to join the platform and you're qualified, we're going to accept you, of course. But I think the way that we've grown the platform so far, we do very little marketing, we do very little advertising. A lot of it is going out, like I mentioned, based on the demand we get from a journalist or a newsroom. We will go out and we will find the experts that fit that criteria. So it's been a really great way to scale because we're not blindly adding folks to the platform without knowing that there's some kind of demand there. So that's how we've been doing it for the last 5 years, and how we'll probably do it for the next 5 years because it's been really great for our members. They love that approach.
Now, one thing that it impressed me that I didn't necessarily expect to see when you took me through the demo the first time was the social media enhancements that
Mm,
you have
yeah.
developed, which seemed pretty impressive. But maybe you could explain a little bit more about what that's about, how we're supposed to see
Yeah,
it.
thanks for asking. Very proud of the work we've done with social. So I would say back in 2022, we quickly realized that in order to give our experts the best shot at getting that coverage, we had to enrich their profiles with what they were doing in the real world, right? Which was recent media appearances that they've done, but also bring in some of their social media activity so that they could quite literally update their profiles just by sending out a tweet, right? And saying, okay,
Uh,
this expert is on top of this topic. They're talking about this topic and it's now in the platform, and the journalists can see that. We quickly realized that social media was a minefield of bad information and inaccurate information, and it was a problem that we started to get really, really obsessed about, quite frankly, because it was something that our journalists were really concerned about. The vast majority of journalists, if not all journalists, Bob, use social media for news gathering of some sort. They'll do it to find witnesses to news events. They'll do it to find public sentiment around a topic or what their community is talking about. But in today's day and age, so much of the engagement and activity on social media is quite literally fake. It's coordinated behavior designed to trick algorithms to push content to the top so that you get more visibility. So in 2023, we started working with our partner, who is just a phenomenal PhD in computer science and also obsessed with the problem of misinformation on social media. And we've created a proprietary algorithm, which is best in class, that can help detect inauthentic or coordinated behaviors online. And I think we've all kind of seen this sometimes, different examples of this. You could see someone posting text and then you see someone posting the exact same text.
yes,
Well, extrapolate that across the whole internet, and what you'll start
yes.
to notice are patterns. And you'll start to see that a lot of the information that is showing up in our feeds or funneling us into echo chambers online is actually inauthentically amplified content. So, something that our social media intelligence platform does is it helps you monitor all the social media narratives, groups, and accounts, but also will flag when we're detecting inauthentic behavior. Super helpful because if you wake up one day and you're a journalist in Georgia and you say, "Oh, the avian flu is trending in my community," but you see a little red flag there, it'll give you pause before just going and rebroadcasting that information to your community. We want to make sure that you avoid rebroadcasting potential disinformation to your audience and cause maybe a panic to go buy all the N95 masks or all the gallons of water.
Yeah.
So very valuable for journalists to know kind of what's authentic, but also for brands to better understand their own community.
Is that to support the same use case of better matching between journalists and experts, or are there other applications? Is it for social media management, for monitoring? Or,
Yeah, I think it depends. If you're a journalist, then you're absolutely coming out of that editorial meeting and you've been assigned a story. You plug it into our social media intelligence tool, and you'll be able to understand the full breadth of how people are talking about that narrative or that topic. You'll be able to see sentiment around it, but then we'll tie it right to the experts on the same line. So you'll say, okay, I'm covering avian flu
cool.
today. And there's a red flag on this. Maybe I don't want to cover it because there's something suspicious, but let me call a molecular biologist. And Rolli has molecular biologists featured right on that same line. They'll pick up the phone. They'll say, "Hey, Bob, I got this story out of Georgia. Can you tell me anything about it? Should we be printing this today?" And then you, as an expert and very informed on the topic, can then provide that journalist with valuable background and essentially be a source to that journalist. So we do tie the expert Rolodex into the social media intelligence tool, but that's for journalists. For brands and PR managers, you could plug in your executive's name in here and see how people are talking about the executive, talking about the brand, if it's a positive or negative sentiment associated with it. What other topics are they talking about? So there's a wealth of information behind each kind of IQ report that we provide you with that'll help you better understand public perception around your brand or your executive that you're representing.
Excellent. So kind of combines a number of really compelling features into one platform.
Mhm.
That is really exciting, fascinating. Anything else we should know? Any other questions I should ask? What are you up to next? How do people reach you?
I would say, Bob, this is a really critical time for our information ecosystem. There's a quite literal tsunami forming a couple miles offshore that we're starting to notice, and we're starting to get some of the first waves of. And I think it's really important for all of us in the communication space to spend extra time and extra moments studying how AI and generative AI is going to impact trust in our mediums. Because it just takes one time to shake an audience's trust in your work or in your brand. So that's something that we're really focused on moving forward is helping to build this trust layer in our communications, so that we can continue to collaborate and communicate with each other in an effective way, in a trustful way. Because that I think is really at the core of our work as communications professionals, but also as our society, learning to trust each other and learning to trust the information around us so we can live a happy, healthy life.
That's great. That is great. Much appreciated. How do people reach you? First of all, is it a SaaS? Is it an app?
Yep,
Both?
it's a SaaS, not an app in the traditional sense. It's a
Yeah.
web app, but you can access the platform through Rolli.ai, ROLLI.ai. Sign up there. Send us a note if you'd like a trial. Happy to connect with anybody listening to the show.
Everybody should check this out. It is really, I think, a step forward in the industry. So I want to thank you, Nick, for coming on and sharing your expertise, insight, more about Rolli. If your audience, if you're watching this and you like it, please share, subscribe, comment on the videos and the podcast. And with that, Nick, very much looking forward to what's coming next with you folks and staying in touch. Wish you the best of luck and thank you for joining the podcast.
Thanks for the invitation, Bob. Best of luck.
My pleasure. Take care.